Georgios the Last, or Georgios Tellest. I don't know. Here, how about a traditional e4, e5 opening? Oh, a king's gambit. Well, let's accept it. I've been playing the king's gambit declined lately, but this is always interesting. See what he's got in store. Of course, you're asking for trouble playing the king's gambit against a higher rated player, even if it's not the best. So he played h3 instead of h4. So let's just defend the pawn. And then I want to play knight to f6. So I wanted to stop this pawn from coming forward. It looks like he wants to take advantage of this open diagonal here. Kind of a positional way to play it. Interesting. He can now push on with d4 and e5 and try and mess up my setup here. I'm going to continue with knight to c6 and develop this bishop somewhere. Yeah, so knight c6, e5. I take, he takes. I could pin the pawn because his king is still uncastled. So he's not in any rush to play that. Can I put more pressure on the center? Maybe I could play the queen move immediately. Although I recognize there's a problem here that when this diagonal opens up, my bishop will be undefended. So he's going to castle queenside. But now knight takes is the tempo on his queen. Let's see. Knight takes. Knight takes. Queen takes. Can develop his bishop with tempo, or he can castle. And after he castles, I will castle. And then my queen. It's a bit awkward on the e-file, but my bishop is defended. Let's try it. Could lead to some interesting play. Could lead to a disaster. Oh, he put his bishop there. I thought he would play bishop to bishop to d3 to gain a tempo on my queen. Yeah, I'm just going to castle so my queen and my king are no longer in a line there. And now develop my bishop. Maybe he's waiting for me to play bishop f5 so that he can play bishop d3 and win the bishop. Actually, it doesn't win it, though, does it? How about if I just blockade this pawn so his bishop can't open up that diagonal? And then step back. Yeah, you can still play bishop d3 anytime. Yeah, so maybe that wasn't best. Maybe I should have gone to g6, and then I could have played bishop f5 when he put his bishop there. Now that's a way to open things up. So I don't have to take right away, though. Let's bring the bishop out first. As long as I keep the square under control. But he takes, I take with the queen, I've still got that square under control. Otherwise there's an annoying fork there. Ah, that's his idea. He wants to go there. So I could take the knight with the bishop, but I don't want to do that particularly. Let's step aside with the queen. Yeah, I'm going to take now. And take. I mean, I am 2 pawns up, am I not? 4 against 2 over here. 4 against 4 on this side. Yeah, I don't see his... I don't see his compensation for the 2 pawns here. And with the queens off, you know, his attack against my king is not going to be so dangerous. Yeah, so he immediately opens things up. Let's take first. I could have thrown in the bishop. Bishop takes bishop because that's with check. Well, let's see if he can defeat me with his 2 rooks. Get my rook off the back rank. I'm going to lift my rook up. I'm get my king off the back rank. Defend this pawn. And get my rooks to the 2nd rank too. Or 7th in this case. Ah, he wants to go there. Well, I can blockade that too. I can force a trade of 1 pair of rooks here, it looks like. So this should just be a winning endgame for me. I take, he takes. Then what? I can lift my rook up. So he's going to try and bring his king in. Can lift my rook up here with check. Or I could attack this pawn here. So he just wants to get rid of that. Let's attack this pawn then. I think a pair of passed pawns here would be good, if I can get it. I don't want to give this pawn up right away. Don't want to make it too easy for him. Maybe, though, I can just push these guys. If I get these pawns far enough advanced, he decided he didn't like that. Then I can sacrifice these pawns on the queen side just to get the passer over here. So I go here. He goes behind my pawn. I push. He takes with check. Okay, I think I am going for the passed pawn here. So he has to decide if he has time to take that pawn and still come back and defend this one. His king is screened off from defending my pawn. Aha. Yeah, that gains a tempo. It's true. I'm playing the rook here, so if he checks me, I'll just block with my rook. One step from queening. Yeah, he's just going to try and trick me somehow over here. So let's bring the queen over here and bring my king over. So we can take, as long as the queen is in front of the pawn, it really doesn't matter here. If I check here, his king is going in front of the pawn. Let's just place the queen here and wait for him to run out of moves. Simplest way to win. Because of the blockade and the fact that his king has to stay in touch with the pawn, I can always use Zugzwang to drive the king back. And then it's a pretty simple checkmate from here. He decided to resign finally. All right, well, that was a nice one to start off. Let's see. Maybe we can get a longer game here. Get a rapid game. Yeah, I guess that can happen in the king's gambit if it goes against you. I'm black again. Against Bishwaranjan. Well, let's play Sicilian this time then. Try to remember to slow down a bit. A waiting move. Okay. So the question is he planning some crazy line like G4? Is that his point here? So I play knight F6, pawn to G4. Well, I could play H6. The only thing that's a little uncomfortable about that idea is that in the Sicilian, you rarely want to castle queenside. You can do it, but usually you don't want to. So if he really just starts throwing his pawns forward on the king side, it could be a bit annoying. Well, that's the idea in many attacks against the Sicilian, I guess. The English attack and the dragon, Yugoslav attack against the dragon, all based on pawn storms. But usually they commit to castling first. He's kind of undecided here. In fact, it's easier for white to castle kingside here. I guess because of his setup, I will go ahead and fianchetto and go for a kind of dragon setup here. Yeah, he was castling kingside. So against kingside castling and slightly slow development from white, the dragon setup is really, I think, very attractive for black. It's a really solid pawn structure, no weaknesses, and the bishops have good diagonals. So I go for this kind of setup when I get the chance. Now maybe I will expand on the queen side here. So he dropped that back. So here's an interesting sacrifice idea here. No, it doesn't work because he can take with the bishop. I was going to say, if I play pawn to b5 and he takes with the knight, then I can take here. But he can take with the bishop instead and keep that pawn defended. So let's just go like this. Anyway, similar idea. I'm just going to try to get in the b5 to b4 push, force that knight to move and grab a pawn. So he gets in the typical exchange. So now we've gone into an open dragon. I mean, an open Sicilian. Kind of delayed. It looked like he was going for a closed Sicilian at first, but he ended up in an open Sicilian anyway. Let's go ahead and put the rook on the c file. That's where it belongs. Then maybe I'll push the b pawn forward. B pawn, yeah, it's not so easy to get that push in. Maybe I should just forget about that idea. Because with I would have to play b5, then a5, then b4. And when I play a5, that pawn on b5 would just be hanging. He seems undecided here, right? He put his knight here and then he put it back. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to get my knight to the c5 square, c4 square. Knight c4 supported by the rook. I could also play b5. I mean, there's other ideas with b5 besides just pushing forward and attacking this knight. It's also just gaining a little space on the queen side. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that now. Also, I was curious if he was planning to play, was he planning to play b4 or b3? If I put the knight here first, he might have just played b3 to kick it back. So I thought I would get this b5 movement first. Tempt him to play b4. Now I've got a good knight, and he's got a backwards c pawn. Maybe I can target. And he's got a good knight, yeah. He's looking at this square, but fortunately that's covered. I can just kick that knight away. Or I could trade. When I trade, his pawn will take, I guess, leaving me with the backwards e-pawn. If I push, then I'll have a backwards d-pawn, but I have hopes of pushing the d-pawn forward too. Oh, but I'm overlooking something. I'm overlooking the fact that when he moved his knight, forward, he just left this pawn hanging. And I had been talking about that earlier. So is this a trick? Is there a problem with this knight? Just grabbing this pawn, I mean. I don't see it. There's no pawn fork. This is well defended. This is loose, but it can retreat. It can also go forward to this square. That looks like a good square for the knight. Oh, this guy is guarding it. Yeah, so here's a plan. I kick his knight away and then play knight to c, or what is that? That's c3, forking the queen and the rook. Okay, moved his queen. Well, that was a very logical move. Get away from the fork and hit my loose knight. Activate his queen. So now I can just trade that knight off if I want to. Or he can trade it off himself, save me the trouble. So can I get in e3, e6, and d5? That's the question. Well, it's not so great for him to be trading like this, is it? Don't quite understand the motivation. So if I kick this knight back now, I don't know. I guess there's no hurry to kick the knight back. Could develop my bishop to a better square. Looking at this c-pawn here. I was also considering just bringing the knight back here, which I can do with tempo, but I think the idea of piling up on this pawn is pretty good. The knight is also looking at the a-pawn here, which the queen is defending at the moment. The queen comes, so the queen should probably stay on this row, this rank, the third rank. There's this square, which has got a fork. Okay, so he gave up this pawn. Yeah, maybe it was tricky to find a move of the queen that defends everything, but he could have put the queen here on c3, defending here and defending here. But it's in the line of the rook, so maybe I had a tactic there too. Anyway, I'll take there. Go get that c-pawn rounded up, and then see if I can figure out how to convert this game. So I can just take that still. After I take, where is the knight coming back to, though? I could take with the rook. Or the bishop. I don't know, maybe the knight is coming back to b4, right? Take here and lift my rook up. Oh, I can't lift my rook up, I'm sorry. I was thinking I'd put my rook here and then the knight and rook would take there, but his bishop has that square. Okay, well, he's going to let me trade off the bishop anyway. I take, queen takes. You know, my knight is in a bit of trouble there. I can defend it, I guess. Yeah, so maybe I took the wrong way. Let's think. Is there something else I have here? Well, the point is that once the queen is here, the knight is under attack, and it has no square to go to. And even if I try to defend it, he can pin it with his rook. So I should probably move my knight now. His bishop came out. That actually gave the knight a square to go to. And if yeah, bishop takes bishop, then I can take with the knight. If bishop takes pawn, I can take with the knight. So the two targets that the bishop has that I see, I can solve that problem. The thing is that if that bishop moves with tempo, yeah, it exposes an attack on my knight. But if I can take with the knight, then that solves both problems. So a bit of a lucky escape. I got my knight into a sticky spot. But I don't know if he had a real way to exploit that. It was a pretty good try. If we have time, maybe I'll take a brief look at that after the game and show you what I was talking about there. Yeah, that makes sense. So attack my pawn. I think I will counterattack his pawn instead of attacking or defending. Instead of simply defending, because he's got the situation where he's got one pawn holding back two. Whereas if we trade, then I'll just have a passed pawn over here, which is isolated but passed. So it's actually an improvement in my structure, I think, to go from this configuration to a configuration where I have a isolated passed pawn over here. So he defends there. He agrees with me. Okay, so let's defend like this, and maybe prepare to double. Double my rooks on the open file. Usually a good recipe. So where's the knight coming to next? Here, here. These squares are covered. It's going here to hit my rook, I guess. Maybe I should really just start pushing these pawns in the center now. This is where my passed pawn is anyway. This is my passed pawn. Just didn't want to give away something on the queen side if I didn't have to. Yeah, yeah, looks like he is going to try and force me to decide something there. Oh, but he gave up the defense of this pawn. So we go back to that trade idea. I like this. Yeah, now I just need to make sure I have a square for my queen. He's got his queen on a good square. So I have to be careful. I can't lift this rook up, for example. Well, I could, but I would have to put it back when he checked me. Have to be a bit careful. So I have lots of pawns, but I can't. I can still lose the game. I can still lose the game by not being careful here. And this pawn is a bit of a problem because okay, well, I can trade here. I think that will make things easier because my knight can be chased away is what I meant to say. He can kick that knight at any time, and then this pawn will be loose. Now I can go back to the diagonal, but I could play a pawn move and block that diagonal. So yeah, he's attacking this pawn over here. Bring my queen back to defend. Yeah, still I'm having trouble with this knight. So if the knight goes here, he can take it off, and then the queen can grab this pawn. But it looks like he's got different ideas. He's just going for the attack here on f7. So I could defend that with the knight, which kind of fits in my plan. I could also defend it by playing e6. Oh, that fits too. Let's do this. Because, well, now I can put my queen here. If he doesn't chase my knight immediately, I can put my queen there. If he does chase my knight, he can still run back to this square, I guess. Interesting. I'm not sure what that is. But anyway, yeah, I want to get his queen away from this area near my king. And he left his knight hanging there. Maybe there was no hope, but he had to trade, I guess. And there's no check. There's nothing the queen can take. He can bring the rook in and try and attack. So can I coordinate with my queen and rook somehow? Okay, two ideas for him. One is to put the rook here. So if I place a piece there, for example, he can chase away with the rook. But if I do nothing, he'll probably put his rook here. Then my king can run out here. It's getting a bit uncomfortable. But I noticed something here. If he drops his rook down, I have a check and a check. Got to watch the time here too. Okay, so he can take that pawn. So I wanted to put my queen here, but the knight needs defending. And the knight is defended at the moment, but if I move my queen. So, I put the rook there. That coordinates the rook and the queen also. And my rook was under attack anyway. So now check. Rook takes, queen takes, check, king up. And I need to get my queen somewhere. Probably I'll have to move the knight first. Get my queen on this diagonal then. If the king comes up immediately, the queen can go to this square with a fork. Okay, so he goes there. He's looking to push the pawn forward maybe. I'm just going to play here. Because once again, things go with check. And then my knight here. So as long as his queen can't check me, his queen can check me. I put my knight here, he checks with the queen. Go here, checks here. Step up here, he checks here. Yeah, I don't want to allow the check. Let's bring the queen back, defend my knight, defend the pawn. Now I'll be able to move the knight. Now this pawn is loose, but I've got a piece as well as a couple pawns. Well, he's not going quietly, but that's the right thing to do. Put up as good a fight as you can. And as the time pressure builds, you know, your opponent can make mistakes. Just got to keep the game going. And now the knight is safe here. Defends the pawn, and I can bring my queen into this square while keeping my king safe from checks. Yeah, just got to try and simplify the situation. If you have a situation where your king is exposed, your opponent has a queen, and there's all these random checks you have to worry about, then it can be very difficult to to keep the game under control and meet the time control. But now the queen's here, I can just push the pawn, and it guards this diagonal. It's defended by the knight, and the knight can't be chased away because it's protected by a pawn, and his pawns are just over here. So all in all, looks like a good deal for me. Now I just have queen up to force a queen trade. That would be simplest at this point. And if he avoids that somehow, then I'll just push the pawn. So queen there, yeah, he's still looking for a way to penetrate here. Now I can bring my queen forward to another square where it's protected, and then I can queen that pawn. Oh, I was moving quickly, you know. There is still this idea that he may have of checking on this diagonal. But in this case, I can bring the knight back to defend. And it doesn't seem like he can get to this square very easily, but he's trying to. Okay, so let's queen. Let's rely on the knight to defend here against the checks. And once again, he can't check me. And his king is one move away from being mated, because the knight here also guards that escape square for his king, conveniently. Now, there's probably a mate there if I just brought the other queen in, but oh, this will lead to a mate soon enough. So the threat is mate. Ah, he stepped away with this king. Okay. And now kind of working my way over there. And that's a mate. That's a nice mate with the knight and the queen guarding all the other squares. Okay, so anyway, one thing I wanted to show you in this game, what I was talking about at a certain point. was, let's get there. Right here. Yeah, so that was a pretty good try. So if I take, he takes back, and yeah, my knight is not defended adequately. It's attacked twice and only defended once. And the squares it can go to, here's under fire, here's under fire, here's under fire, here's under fire here. The queen guards that square. Here, I could go to the corner. But, oh no, his rook was guarding that. So every square it goes to is defended. And let's see, the only way I can defend the knight is to play here. And he can bring another piece over. And then, yeah, once again, the knight can't escape, and if I don't do anything, it's just going to get taken. So that was a good try by white. And then, unfortunately, I managed to find knight d4. Because when the bishop is here, momentarily the square is available for the knight. It wasn't available before, but now it is. And so the move that attacked my knight also let it escape. So maybe I was okay here all along, unless he has another way to attack the knight. If he can't attack it quick enough, then I can play this move, e5, and then that will secure the square on d4 for the knight. So that was my rescue plan for the knight. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Bye.